Hi, my name is Peter Patainen, and I'm currently standing in downtown Sault Ste. Marie in front of the Sault Ste. Marie Museum.
My name's Karl Hansen. I'm the bridge engineer. Today we are at the Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario Museum.
Back in the summer of 2011, Phil Becker, the general manager for the International Bridge, wanted us to put together a historical display for the communities of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan that would document the history of the International Bridge. Karl Hansen, our bridge engineer, took on an archive project.
I am a history buff, and ordinarily I don't get to do that kind of thing at work. And with the 50th anniversary, I was asked if I would take on the task of going down into the basement at the IBA administrative office and going through old boxes and photos and looking for documents of historical significance. And I jumped at the chance. It was a welcome break from the other things that I was doing, and yielded quite a treasure trove of stuff as it turned out. One of our board members from the Sault Ste. Marie Bridge Authority, Helen Gillespie, was acquainted with Mr. Kim Forbes, who's the director of the museum, and she suggested that we contact him with help in archiving whatever it was we might find. I found a VHS tape, and that was in a little cardboard box at the back of one file cabinet that I had completely cleaned out, and I saw this little box and opened it, and underneath a bunch of other scrap paper was this tape. We had no way of viewing it ourselves, and so we delivered it to Kim. He digitized it and put it on a disc, had it picked up, and it was brought to my desk, and I brought it down to Peter Patainen.
Karl came back to the office one day with a DVD.
I left the disc with Pete, and I went back to my desk.
I put the DVD into the player, played it again.
And shortly thereafter, my phone rang.
Then pretty much called Karl right away and says, you really need to come back to my office.
And so I went back down there, and he had queued up the disc, and as it turned out, it was a video greeting from President Kennedy on the opening of the bridge. Very cool. My first reaction was that chills went up my spine. I mean, I was born 6 weeks after the bridge opened, so President Kennedy was president when I was born. And I had no idea that this clip existed. I never would have guessed that such a thing existed because, I mean, after all, we're up here in the UP, and I never had any idea that President Kennedy would have recorded such a message for the opening of a bridge.
We got a copy of the DVD to Bob Wilks.
Peter Patainen had brought down a box of old VHS tapes. And as I recall, I was looking through the VHS tapes, and I think that's the first place where I saw the Kennedy clip. But there was a problem with the soundtrack.
The audio was not good.
The audio was not good.
It was crackly.
Very difficult to hear President Kennedy.
At times difficult to understand.
I was really disappointed with what we had as far as audio and its quality.
Someone had added some music to the background to the actual audio. It sounded a little bit dated, and it wasn't really what we wanted for our film. But that was about, we had to make do with what we had, so we assumed that we would use it with that music.
I was excited enough about the clip, though, that the first thing I did when I got home that night was look up the JFK Library Museum online just to see what they might have. Perhaps there was an original copy of the video somewhere.
They apparently did not find a complete film or video of it, but they found a soundtrack.
What I found instead was a very brief description of an audio reel in their archive department.
The camera can only shoot the picture. The sound is usually recorded on a special tape recorder that puts an electronic pulse on that's similar to the sprocket holes on the film. And then those are put together.
So Suzanne Moreau in the office contacted the JFK Library for me.
They made an MP3 file of this audio track.
Thankfully, it was a match for what we had.
We had a nice clean track of the president speaking, and it wasn't hard with video technology to then synchronize the two. The technique that I used was to lay down the audio track first on what's called the timeline in a video edit, and then if the president says a word that begins with M, his lips will close and you can synchronize at that point. And then he'll talk a little bit and perhaps he'll say something that has the letter P in it. So again, the lips come together and you can synchronize at that point. And do something called fit to fill, which means the picture will either be slightly accelerated or slightly slowed down so that it exactly matches the amount of time it takes to get from the M to the P. The sound doesn't change, that never gets touched, but the picture imperceptibly speeds up and slows down a little bit so that from beginning to the end there may be 20 or 30 different cuts, but they allow the picture to be perfectly synchronized with the sound.
When we were in contact with the JFK Library and Museum, the archivist department put us in contact with their acquisitions department. They didn't have a copy of this video. All they had was an audio reel. So, in talking with Bob Wilks, we asked him to submit it back to the JFK Library and Museum, the entire remastered video of President Kennedy with the audio restored to it in the name of the Sault Ste. Marie Bridge Authority.
This is something that they don't prepare you for in engineering school, and so to be a part of the development of the video and to be a part of finding the Kennedy clip and ultimately being part of the team that was able to present this video to the JFK Library, it's just a privilege and something that I never expected to happen in my career. It trumps everything that I've done in 17 years insofar as engineering projects go. And I probably got about a dozen years left before I retire, and I look down the road and I think, what could possibly top this?
I was very honored to be able to help with that because I had been a Peace Corps volunteer, and President Kennedy, his presidency had been quite important to me. I was in high school, so I do recall seeing his inaugural address live on television. And I assumed he was basically just another politician and was going to be going blah, blah, blah. But when he said the part about ask now what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, I had never heard a politician say that before. Politicians usually say, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you. This all of a sudden hit home and said, well, I wonder what that could possibly be. And a year or so later, he announced the formation of the Peace Corps. And that was something that maybe citizens could actually do for their country, for the world. So it was great to be able to give something back to the Kennedy Library.
We were able to take this clip of President Kennedy and incorporate it into the video we were working on.
Well, the video was just outstanding. Pete did a heck of a job on that video. I was really impressed.
The videos were impressive. They were nice. They showed just about every angle of the bridge and our properties that you could get at.
That was a really awesome feeling to see that, like, President Kennedy was on that video and our bridge was a documentary about our bridge, and just being directly involved with it. I'm a part of it, part of history.
Well, when we first started the project, I wasn't really too excited about it. But when everything started coming together, I mean, I got pretty excited. It was something else, and I was sure proud to be part of it.
The preparation for the lighting of the bridge and that celebration took a lot of work from a lot of people, and everybody contributed. Everybody did a lot of hard work, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, for lack of a better term, and it turned out very nice.
That it was a great event. I was very proud to be part of the 50th anniversary. I mean, it's a legacy that is going to hopefully be continued on for another 50 plus years.
It was exciting. I happened to be involved with turning on the lights on the American Arch.
If anybody was at the lighting ceremony, you would have noticed that it was spectacular. The fireworks were great, and the lighting went off without a hitch.
And it was very fun to watch it all take place and evolve throughout the evening. And when everything came together and worked as well as it did, I was proud to be a part of it.
It's a wonderful place to work. It's one of the best jobs I've had. I've been working on bridges and water tanks for probably the last 40 years. It's probably one of the best jobs I ever had.
It's an interesting job. There's all different facets of what you got to do. And the best part is you get to work outside, out in the fresh air all the time.
I love my job. It's fun. You meet so many different people.
I enjoy my job tremendously. I really enjoy the public, seeing how, people are interacting with others when they come through. It's just a fun job. Really appreciate working here.
50th anniversary is going to be winding down, and then we're going to have to start taking stuff down. That's going to be a challenge, but got a pretty good work team here. I think we'll get her done safely and on time and under budget.
It was a true honor and a privilege to be able to contribute something to the Bridge Authority and the 50th anniversary. I mean, a true thanks has to go to Don Garner and Bill Phillips, Bob Wilks, James Lake, for helping to produce and put this documentary together. Without their help, this wouldn't have been possible. I have to give James Lake a lot of credit. We hung him out of a helicopter in a harness without a door. Doesn't care for heights. He's never been in a helicopter before, yet he was able to get some outstanding aerial footage of the International Bridge from angles that nobody has really ever seen before until now. A sincere appreciation also needs to go out to Federal Bridge Corporation Limited, Michelin Dubé and Andre Girard. They came to our support by helping to produce a French audio track for the DVD as well. A sincere thanks to the interviewees that spent their precious time to sit down and give us their thoughts and input on the International Bridge and the 50th anniversary as we celebrate it this year. Director Kirk Steidel, Michelin Dubé, CEO of Federal Bridge. Linda Hoth, Jim McIntyre, our board members. Phil Becker, Karl Hansen from the International Bridge. The staff, tolls, administration, all the past and present administration, even from the original Bridge Authority, that have helped make the legacy of the International Bridge and connecting the two Saults together such a wonderful and rich history and legacy.
You'd have to say congratulazione alle 50 anni dell'anniversary dell'International Bridge. Thank you.